Well, thank you, and hello, everybody. My name is Anne Coquette. I'm the founder and CEO of The Guild, a platform that connects people to each other for real-life connection making, for professional networking. And I have the great pleasure to introduce you to this amazing panel today. And before we do that and go into the expert areas of these founders here on stage, I would like to know who here in the audience is a founder. Show of hands. All right, all right. And who in the audience has or is using AI in your startup? Okay, quite a few people less. And who is thinking about using AI in the future? All right, okay. And last question, who likes wine and beer? All right, we have the right panel here for you. We're going to talk about fashion, about beer and wine, and about AI. So welcome Amy, Camilla, and Stathis today to this panel. And I really hope that we get some answers out there for the folks that rose their hands when we ask what is it going to be for your future in the technology stack, and how do you implement AI there. So Amy, why don't we just jump right in and you start and kick us off with a quick intro of who you are and what VineSleuth is doing, and how you got to decide that AI is the technology to use for your startup.
Absolutely right. Well, I'm Amy Gross with VineSleuth, and so all of you who like beer, wine, and AI, we could talk later for hours and hours. Basically, what we do is create personal recommendation engines for beer and wine using rock-solid flavor data, personal preference inputs, and inventory so that bars, restaurants, and retailers can give great customer service to those people that are dining with them. The reason that we chose to use AI is we knew we wanted to build a personal recommendation engine. And to be honest with you, it was back in 2009 that I enjoyed Pandora. If you guys remember Pandora, I think Spotify has kind of taken over. But the simple case of I like it, I don't like it. With the music, I wanted to do something like that with wine and beer. And so that's what we're doing at VineSleuth.
Awesome. All right. So how does that look like in the fashion industry with Savitude?
Hi, I'm Camilla Olsen, co-founder and CEO of Savitude. And Savitude is for those people who are finding clothes not fitting them. They're buying things online and taking them back because they don't look so good on themselves. And how we got into this business is, so this is my third predictive modeling company. The first two were done in another industry, and the first one was public. The second one got bought for $100 million a year after we launched it. And I went back to school and did an MFA in fashion design and launched my own e-commerce label. And then that merged into a marketplace, and we developed an iOS app as a hook to bring people in, and it was an educational piece. And then we quickly realized that we could use AI to automatically curate the assortments that were coming onto our marketplace. So once we did that, we realized we had a B2B business. So we used it as a business necessity. So once that happened, we realized we had a whole nother company. So we shut down my fashion business and then relaunched. So that was called Camilla Olsen. It was really, creative, and launched Savitude as a whole new entity. And so what Savitude does is it's a hyper-personalization company that uses expert knowledge, visual recognition, and AI to make ranked recommendations to shoppers, and it delivers a 7% increase in gross margin to retailers. And we're just at the very beginning of doing original generative designs.
Awesome. So we have two consumer startup founders using AI here, and then Stathis, you're here with Genius AI, and you do support founders with AI. So tell us more about how that looks.
So when we're doing a prep call for this conference, Camilla mentioned the generative design, and I had no idea what it is. I recommend Googling it. It's really cool. My name is Stathis. I'm a founder and CEO at Genius AI. We are an AI company that is specifically focused on understanding people. So we help companies with deep customer understanding, building predictive models about their behavior, but most importantly, helping companies engage with their customers in an emotionally intelligent way. I did my PhD in computational neuroscience all the way back in the UK at the University of Cambridge, and I spent many years in analyzing patterns in data when it comes to behavior. And what I noticed in the regular kind of data science stack that the companies have, is the regular path of taking your data, organizing it, making it machine learning ready, asking them the right questions, building the predictive models, deploying them, having some APIs or some ways to serve insights. So what we did at Genius AI, we actually packaged that all into a cloud platform. What we do also is that we connect to a whole multitude of other third-party and publicly available data sets to enrich data about consumers. So we don't need to spend millions or wait years until your AI or data science insights into your consumers and their behavior can have a business impact. You can use this right away and drive value. Last thing that I'll say is that we're still young, so we're still 6 people, but we just finished raising our seed round. So total, we'll have $5 million in the bank, and we'll go forward. But it's a pleasure to meet you all. Thank you.
So the next question is about the tipping point at which you understand this is the time when we could start using some modeling and some predictive analytics looking forward and starting to inform our customers about what could be next for them, and then really bringing that into the product. So for the Guild, it took a while until we hit that point because, first of all, you have to build the marketplace. You don't have data out there yet, so you have to bring people in. People need to give you their profile information. They need to tell you who they are, what they're looking for in their career. Then you start to make matches. And once the people meet for coffee or a glass of wine and connect, they give us feedback, right? And that's where the feedback mechanisms start to make sense. And then we said, okay, what do we do with that feedback data, and how do we feed that back into the algorithms? And that was sort of, for us, the tipping point where we said, now we need to start looking into models. Now we need to go a little further than a linear regression model. And so was there any points for you in your companies where a wine recommendation all of a sudden became like a data challenge, and therefore you started using AI, and how did that look like?
So we actually kind of did things a little bit opposite, and then we started off with a very precise, very intricate model to make the recommendations. And the reason that our recommendation engine works is because of the way that we analyze the wines, and we take that data and then we apply people's preferences to that so that we can make the most appropriate recommendations. What we found, which is a little interesting, is that whenever we built this fantastic model, this fantastic process, and what we're finding is we can actually get farther faster by kind of taking it back and using more of a sort and select model instead of the full-blown AI offering. And actually, I started out of the gate building this fantastic model and wanting to sell that, and that's a very expensive model. I mean, again, the data is what makes us work. And what I'm finding is if we can back it up just a little bit and make it a little bit more accessible to more clients, that we are able to reach even farther and then start using that data, get our foot in the door, and then grow back out to the bigger model later. Wine and beer and actually the whole alcohol space is very behind a lot of the other industries when it comes to collecting data, sharing data, and using recommendation engines. So for us, we really have had to tiptoe our way into it so that that industry is more comfortable with what we're doing.
And is that an advice for the audience as well, for founders in the audience, to say, understand your industry first, or is there a generalized advice from that?
I think that it is. I think sometimes we get caught up in wanting to use machine learning or AI or any other really cool tool. And I think that the best way to find the right solution is to think more so about the problem than the solution. Because you might find that a low-tech solution will solve the problem that you're trying to solve for quite some time, as then you can move into solve it more completely or better. People seem to be really interested in what AI can do. I was actually on my flight out here from Houston. The woman next to me was working for the UN, and she's coming up with ways that people can look at their sustainability goals. And she said, well, how can I apply AI? And I said, tell me what you're trying to do. I don't know that you always need AI. And actually, most of the things that we're referring to as artificial intelligence aren't AI. It's machine learning, or it's other modeling. But people like to call it AI, and we're really not there for many things quite yet, because that does take intense data, intense feedback loops, and a lot of information that we're really doing a lot of ML.
And so, Stathis, I know you also use a lot of behavioral science for your work, and so where does that fit in, and where does AI come in?
So I agree that a lot of the AI companies that I meet are based around a machine learning method, or based around building tools for building machine learning solutions. So we're kind of ways out before general AI is going to be available. Specialized AI of some kind is there. I think it is available to solve very limited number of tasks. What we set ourselves to focus on is actually converting data into insights about, well, who's the person behind this data. So for example, if you think about like a massive e-commerce platform of some kind, you'd be able to know a lot about the customers that are on this platform, even to a degree of how fast they're moving their mouse cursor, et cetera. If you are a company that sits on large data sets and large data flows, you're finally able to understand a little bit more rather than just group people by the last action that they took, et cetera. At Genius AI, what we look at is actually predicting personality, so we predict disposition and traits that help us to understand a little bit more how people make decisions and connect that into creating better frameworks in terms of how to engage with them. So getting back to your previous question, I think that if you are a consumer product or consumer business, if you have a handful of customers, you already are at a point where you could leverage additional knowledge. You could leverage machine learning AI tools or technologies to learn something about who these people are that are resonating what you have to offer. And what we notice working with customers that are big banks or big companies to small startups is that when it comes to engaging with a particular customer base or consumer base, if a brand finds a way to connect at a deeper level than just providing that utility, normally they're successful. So the sooner you can start discovering that, the better you're off.
And Camilla, for you, we heard already that you were a fashion brand first, and then you pivoted into an AI tech company. Can you go more in detail, like when that really happened and what drove you to make that decision? And what did that even look like?
Yeah. So we had noticed a problem in the industry that of fit, this big fit problem, in that it was not really recognized as a body shape issue. And we're beginning to build a database, a knowledge base of how to deal with that. And it started out with about 180 rules. Now it has 40,000 rules in it. So our knowledge base is a big part of our IP. So we started out with an iOS app that taught people, how to recognize what their body shape is and to make recommendations on what to wear and to feed into what to buy, right? And then we realized that that whole thing could be recommended through AI. And so just the need to do a better job at that, and Anthropology saying we want to use this on our floor, made us switch to B2B. And in order to do that, we had to use AI because the math involved to doing it by ourselves was impossible. So we had to use bigger technology, and the only solution was AI. So in order to do that, we had a competent engineer on board who knew machine learning, visual recognition, could do the AI competently. But in sort of investing in all of that, we chose to go with Watson to test out the technology first, to test out models to see what would work for us. So we spent a good year or so just playing with models to see what worked and where we got best results. But then Watson turned out to be way too expensive for us to really make the kind of money we wanted to make. And we moved over to TensorFlow, and we host on AWS. And the economics are so much better there. And we ended up, that's what happened.
Yeah. And so I know, Amy, you also use Watson, right? And then you went away from it?
We did have we had an experience with Watson. So in 2015, they had the Watson ecosystem program, which startups could apply to be a part of, and then test different Watson APIs. And so our recommendation engine for wine and beer was, we built that ourselves. So all of our algorithms are proprietary, and we were trying to incorporate Watson in a food offering. At the time, Watson had Chef Watson, and so we were looking to use that. And then we also looked at their natural language classifier. For about 3 years, we worked with Watson, and it was great to work with their teams. I'm glad that we built our initial business on a different platform, on our own algorithms, and that we were pulling in Watson to try to solve other problems for us. Turns out they ended up pulling Chef Watson, which I'm still so very sad about. But then we've since gone and built a platform that's now ours that does something similar. So we can also do wine and food and beer and food pairing using AI instead of tagging. But the Watson experience kind of helped us to play with different models, different ideas, different ways to do things to see what worked best for my company. It turned out not to be a long-term solution for us. And I think they have all sorts of different pricing models, and they have recently changed their pricing model to make it more expensive.
So one of the newer things that we've done, and I really recommend you think about this, is so we're in the retail space, and so at first I naively thought, oh, we'll go after big box and we'll be rich, right? Things will be good. Then we were in the Techstars retail program in partnership with Target, and we said, oh, great, this is going to really happen. Well, anyhow, there's another story there. But big box retail takes forever to make a decision. Just take that as truth. So one of the things that we did I'm so glad we did, is that we have our technology on AWS, everything up there, and we just drop a quiz on retailer site. So we're very, 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 very light on our customer. And so what we now have done is we have ported all of our technology onto Shopify. So our website is on Shopify is one thing, but we have also ported our technology as a plugin onto Shopify. Because everything is up in AWS, we're able to do that. And so it's in the approval stages now. So we're able to offer our AI to all of the Shopify clients. Now, none of our direct competitors do anything like that.
And your market has quadrupled or
yeah,
right?
I mean,
like immediately
because
people are there and using it there.
So Shopify has 700,000 shops.
Yeah.
40% of them are. I don't want you guys to be competitors now,
Right.
but they probably have people in your space, and you can get their names and numbers of all the shops.
That's great. I love that you did that. Sorry
Yeah.
to jump in, but I love that you did that. It was very clever. It was very strategic. I mean, that helped you rise, and you're getting this data that you're able to see more things, look at more trends. I mean.
And I think it's a general trend that companies are building technologies because they want to solve a specific problem. It's the same in health, and then all of a sudden it's one disease, but guess what? It's applicable in other diseases as well. And similar for the Guild, like we built a platform that was first and foremost focused on women founders and women in business, and now we realize there's a lot of communities out there that could use that platform to connect their people. So it's interesting, right, where we sort of start from and then where we pivot as entrepreneurs. So if we're looking at the people in the room and we want to give them advice to the point of here is where you take the different steps, here's the resources you can go find, here's that data scientist you can go hire and not pay $250,000 Bay Area salary. Where would you start there, Stathis? Do you have any recommendations in terms of companies starting to use AI?
In regards to hiring talent, or in regards to using machine learning?
Well, both, right? Like, does it mean you have to hire talent, or can you also use open source solutions?
So the consumer businesses that we work with, I normally, internally in our meetings, kind of group into two. So first group is the ones that are sort of digital or technology native, the ones that started recently. They build their entire operation with technology in mind. And on others that are larger, they've been around for a long time, and they're doing cloud transformation. Now, the first group is always extremely exciting to see how fast they're moving and how fast they're scaling, and it's inevitable that will lead towards them dominating in the future. So I think that it's important when you're building a company to have an AI component and not outsource it, actually have it in-house. Especially today, for example, in terms of machine learning, there's new technologies available now. For example, AutoML is a framework that is used as a standard where you no longer need to build models manually. You can optimize and get to results much quicker with much less talent, so much less team, as it were. So you can have an engineer that has an interest in that area, and they would be very happy to learn very quickly and prototype and build things early on. So, and then, as said, there are a great set of tools already emerging that help automate data science pipelines, that help to leverage some very specific language, let's say, solutions, platforms like ours that help to go even to greater lengths to learn something about kind of very vertically about consumers. So there are great tools coming around, so keep an eye out on that and try to be lean and try to be fast, and you'll be successful.
And don't do it for AI's sake, right? AI for AI's sake. If we're talking about that, Amy, what would be your advice to entrepreneurs starting out with AI?
What we have found at VineSleuth is that it's the same computer science adage that we've done for years: garbage in, garbage out, right? AI can be a fantastic tool, machine learning can be a fantastic tool, but if you don't have solid data going in, you're going to get bad data going out. You're going to get bad results. We're seeing that as we see gender bias and we see other bias whenever people are using crowdsourced data for things or historical data for things. So if you're looking to go into, if you're researching using ML or AI, make sure that you think about what your data sources are, make sure that you own those data sources, or that you have appropriate access to them, because without the right data, you're not going to get great results. But with great data, you will get great results.
What about you, Camilla? Any advice?
Yeah, a little bit. Well, first of all, our engineering team is in Ann Arbor, so we don't have to deal with the Bay Area prices. And secondly, and the communication is fine. And so that brings up the second issue, which is communication. So that has been key in all three of my startups in this space, and the other two were in the pharmaceutical industry with clinical pharmacologists. So in this company, we have fashion designers. We started out working with our engineering team, and now we even moved our fashion team reporting to our engineering team. So I think it's really, really important that you focus on communication of your domain experts and your engineering team, that if that is not working, if that is not close and warm and fuzzy, you're not going to succeed. And we put a priority on that, and that is what makes us have, I think, a really strong product. The third thing is to definitely use available platforms for testing, and the last thing is to be careful about what you're optimizing for. Remember the experiment of the plane, that the AI experiment of plane flight failed. The plane never took off because they optimized for safety.
Yeah, and for me to add to that, I think is thinking about your customer first and foremost, because does the AI you put into your product actually increase the satisfaction or the happiness of your customer? And I see a lot of data science teams go really deep because it's exciting to find patterns, and it's in our DNA as data scientists to go through the data, and then we find this pattern, and then we feel like we win. But at the end of the day, we need to understand if the customer wins. And as a founder, I would recommend for you to always stay curious. Don't give AI to your data science team and walk away. Stay curious, have check-ins, and ask questions. Ask questions where the data comes from. Ask which models are being used. Why are they being used? Is there enough data for those models to actually run right? Is accuracy the thing you want to optimize for, or are there other parameters? I would definitely recommend for everybody who's a founder who wants to add AI to get AI fluid in some way or shape. You don't need to code Python or anything, but stay curious and make sure that you also ask your clients what they think about it and how their experience improves. So I think we're at the end, so thank you so much to everybody here on the panel for joining me, and I hope there was some helpful advice in this amazing panel. So thank you.
Thank you.